Hello everyone, welcome back to part 2 of our pontoon airplane modeled in May 2015. If you are coming off of the last lesson, I did forget to say it before I went ahead and finished the video. So I've already saved, but if you have not, now is a good time to do so. A lot of times when you're doing stuff in Maya, sometimes Maya just crashes, and to prevent that, just save every 30 minutes just to be safe. Sometimes files are also corrupted, so it's also good to save more than one copy. So I would always go to File, Save Scene As, and then you'll get a little normal saving window going on. I saved mine as Pontoon Plane 01. As you're going forward, maybe you might have Pontoon Plane 02, 3, 4, 5. That way, if you end up with corrupted files, you can just go back to your last one and you won't lose a lot of work. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel since I'd already saved mine. All right, so our reference images are set up. We're going to start off modeling with a cube. So we're going to go to Create, Polygon Primitives, and we'll go to Cube. All right, there we go. Now, I'm going to start off my modeling from the side view. So I'm going to go to my 4-panel to get started. Go down to my side view here, hit spacebar, and now I've got a full side view here. Now, I'm going to turn on scale, and I'm going to scale this out until it nearly matches the length of this pontoon. That's pretty close. Go with the height too. Alright, that's about okay. Now it's starting to get hard for me to model now because my cube is blocking my view. So I'm going to have to turn on X-ray so that I can see through my cube and see the reference image behind it. So X-ray is this little icon right here at the top of your viewport. So go ahead and click on that. Good. Alright, now I'm going to go into vertex mode so I can kind of adjust some of this. Actually, before we even do that, because if I start adjusting these, since I don't have enough geometry, it's going to actually end up making my shape dip way too steeply. So I need some new geometry in here. I need to drop in what's called an edge loop in a couple different spots to retain my shape and help define my shape. So there is an edge loop tool that I use right here. If you guys don't have on your shelf, you can get this edge loop tool underneath Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop Tool. Go ahead and click on that one. And let's go ahead and drop in, let's say, maybe 3 or 4 of them. We'll put in one near the nose. Put in one here near where the top of these legs that are going to come off and attach to our airplane. We'll put one over on the other side of those. And we'll put one near the end of the pontoon. And we'll add some more in as we need to. I'll also put one in going horizontally. That way I can bring some of these vertexes up below and not lose my shape. Okay, doing good here. So I'm going to exit out of my Insert Edge Loop tool because it won't actually exit out until I hit Q. You'll see it's highlighted on here, or if I hit move or something to that effect, then it'll exit out, or if I select a different tool. Also, something I didn't mention with this Insert Edge Loop tool when you're beginning with it, understand how it works. It is working off of edges, which is why it's called Insert Edge Loop. So if I click on this vertical edge here, it drops one in horizontally going around my geometry. If I click on this horizontal edge up here, it drops one in going down vertically, and then I just hold down left mouse button and drag to wherever I want it, and when I'm happy with the placement on it, then I just let go of it. So I'm just going to leave that one there actually, just because that will actually kind of help me line up with this bevel I'm putting later on. Okay, so this is a good starting point. I could always add more geometry later, but now is a good time to exit out of my Insert Edge Loop tool. Like I said, you can click this little selection tool, or you can use the hotkey Q. That'll get you out of it as well. I'm going to go to vertex mode, so I'll hold down right mouse button on my cube, go to vertex, and I'm going to do a marquee box. Now, this is something key when it comes to modeling in reference, because you want the vertex here, but you also want the one on the other side of it, so that you'll just grab one vertex and translate it up, and then you get this vertex behind it that's staying behind because you only selected the one vertex. So make sure you're doing marquee boxes when you're doing this, and that will make it to where you get both of them on both sides. And we'll just translate that one up and over, and I'll grab the nose and just kind of push that one over as well. And I'll grab this one, just kind of translate that one down to a little closer. There we go. And I'll just go around and just match up the general shape. Now, we don't have a lot of geometry here, so there will be a little bit of penetration where it doesn't match the curve exactly. Like you can see between these 2 points that the roundness of the pontoon punches past where our geometry is, which is fine. We're going to deal with that, but just not right at the moment. Right now we're going to just block in the basic shape. I'm pushing those last two down just a little bit more because this this base here, where it's connected to the pontoon, is actually going to be a separate piece from our build on top of it, so I'm just going to leave a little bit of room for it to be built. Okay. Oops. This little guy here will do a global move, and I did not mean to click that. And if you notice, I'm mainly grabbing the arrows by themselves. I don't grab down here. I could grab down here. Orthographically, like that is actually one time it's okay to use the global, but I try to just use the arrows. It's just the best practice to do, especially for someone new at modeling. If you start grabbing this one up here, you can just end up getting yourself in trouble, and once you get out of your orthographic view, you can be like, oh, well, why does it look funny? It looked good in that view, and the reason why is because it looked good until you went back to your 3D and it just doesn't quite look the same. Okay. Alright, so this is all good. We need a little bit more geometry to be able to capture this concaveness here. So I need another edge loop in there. Good. Go to vertex mode and I'll pull this guy down. You might be asking yourself, like, what? Can I just add in geometry like that? Of course you can. If it looks right to you, then yes, by all means, just go ahead and add in what looks correct. You don't really want to worry about adding in more geometry until it starts affecting what's called your edge flow of your geometry, starting to make things look broken. So if you have too much geometry, or geometry is all running in one direction, you're trying to change it, that can cause some interesting effects that come out in the render that may not be pleasant. So I'll put one more in right here. That there. Okay, I think that should be enough geometry, I think, to accomplish what I'm after. Now I know anyone who's following closely is like, what about this beveled area? How we get that to push in? And we're going to use an extrusion on that, but I want to wait on that until after I block in from the other angles, because right now we're just working from one perspective. Once I have the other perspectives more dialed in and rounded out, then I'll do my extrusion. Okay, that looks okay. I can push and pull points for a while, but I'm going to leave this be for now. Just call it. Okay, so I'm going to go to my next view. Click on my 4-panel here. And now if you look in the viewport, this is all very flat because, like I said, we're only working from the side view. Now we are going to work from the front view. Now it looks like, turn reference off because it looks like the front view actually needs to be over here. Interesting enough. But we're going to actually, let's do it from the top view. Okay, so I'm going to grab this whole set of vertexes and push that out so it matches with the roundness of this guy over here. And then I'll just do the same thing to the other side. Line over here. Okay, that will be okay for that. And let's check the front view. Turn X-ray. Now to accomplish the roundness, because right now it looks like a box, so we need to round this out a little bit. So I'm going to select one face on one side, and if you hold down Shift and double click the face right next to it, if it's only twice, it'll select the entire loop going all the way around it. If you select it more than twice, it will select everything. So let's see if we can just do twice. There we go. We got the whole loop. Good. So now I'm going to turn on my scale tool so I can kind of add some roundness and softness to this. And then I will just round it out a little bit here. Might have to shrink this guy in a little bit now to bring him back in. Might be a little bit too big. There we go. Alright. We're going to add in more detail on this, but for right now, that's a good starting point. The next thing I want to do is jump back into my side view. And I'm going to start working on doing that bevel that was right in here. So go back to my 4-panel view, jump into my side view here. I'm going to try to line up these edges here so that they kind of run along with this here. Otherwise, when I do my extrusion, it's not going to look very good. So I'm going to move. That up a little bit. I'll bring these forward just a little bit as well, just to kind of go with the edge flow so it doesn't look all. If it doesn't go with, if I had a jag back over, it could, since we don't have a lot of geometry, it could look a little wonky. So I'm just trying to compensate a little bit. Okay, pull this one up a little bit. Let's pull these guys up just a little bit, and maybe the one, yeah, just a little. Okay. Now I'm going to perform an extrusion on this. So the extrusion is going to be this whole group of faces in here. So I'm going to select all of them in face mode. Make sure I get that end one as well, otherwise it'll be left behind and I don't want that. Alright, so now I'm going to go back to my perspective view with 3D view, this one right here. Okay. Now, extrude, I have this icon right here that is extrude, but I am going to show you where to get extrude if you don't have it on your shelf. So we're going to go to Mesh Tool again, and there should be one here that says Extrude Tool. Problem with that is, I don't like this one personally, because this one gives me the Extrude Tool that is with the Modeling Toolkit. Maya has more than one way to get a job done, and I just don't like that one. It doesn't give me enough control of how my extrusion is done, which by what I mean there is that I like to be able to switch back and forth between my world and my local control. So let's see here. You can go to Edit Mesh, and underneath Face, they have an extrude tool that's different. Same kind of principle, but just behaves a little different. This is the one I actually wanted. So I can have it go in that way. Or if I don't like that, I can switch to the world or local. And actually I like that one better. Push this one back so it's a little more intense. There we go. Make it just a little bit more narrow. That's good. Bring it up just a bit more. Okay, that looks decent. Alright, I know some of you are like, that doesn't look decent. This looks barely okay. But if you want to view this in a preview mode, you can see where you're kind of going with this in the long run. So before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and hit save. I'm going to hit File, Save Scene. Been modeling for about 15 minutes. I want to make sure that if I have my crash, that I don't lose anything. So if you press the number 3 on your computer, it should give you a smooth preview. Now, most of my students, once they find out about the smooth preview button, they like to work in smooth preview, and that is dangerous. I usually tell them not to do that for a number of reasons, because this is not actually what it looks like right now. Right now, this is just showing you what it'll look like when we subdivide it, which will look good, but if you start modeling it without the vertexes actually where they're supposed to be, you can end up with your model actually looking pretty janky when you come out of smooth preview. So I'm going to go ahead and hit selection, and I'm going to go back. So now I'm back in my normal mode. Okay. Alright, so to retain this shape, I need to actually add in a little bit more geometry, because otherwise when I go and smooth this out, it's not going to hold that entire shape. So I got to add in some more edge loops. I'm going to add in one more across the nose. Oops. Let's open up edge flow, or insert edge loop. So if you double click on the tool here, it'll open up this sub menu over here. Some of the functions that are on here right now are messing with my geometry. This one here, insert with edge flow, I don't need that one on. If you put insert with edge flow, this is good for if you're working on a character like a face and you have a bunch of edge flow, meaning that's the way that all the geometry is running, like around the face or something. When you put a new geometry, this will make it to where if you have insert with edge flow on, that it'll go in and it'll put in a curvature with matching the geometry around it, so that it won't come out blocky. But in this situation, we don't need that. We don't have a ton of geometry or edge flow, so turn that off. Just slap it in there like that, and yeah, that's good. Okay. When I go to subdivide, it's going to want to soften this out, and I don't want to soften this part here, so I'm going to add some more geometry in just to retain this shape right here. I'm also going to put in one below the extrusion on this side, and then one above it as well. Oops. Okay, so let's test now. So I'll hit 3 again to kind of see what's going to look like. That looks a lot more sharper. I'm liking the way that's looking. Okay, and let's see here. Let's go back. Alright, I think I just need maybe one more edge loop going over the top. And that will be enough. I'll translate these guys up just a little bit so I end up with a little bit more roundness on the top. Just a little bit, not a whole bunch. It was just kind of looking like a square up there, so, or cube. Okay, one other thing I'm sure you guys have also noticed was that we're ending up with a little bit of a rivet in our smooth preview, and that's because these edges were way too close to each other, so I need to spread these out a little bit. I'll just take these three and distribute them a little bit more so they're not so close to each other. Okay, object mode, hit 3, and that took care of that. Perfect. Okay, so I am done with the modeling phase of the pontoon, which is this yellow piece back here. I still need to build up the legs though, so to do that I'm going to go ahead and smooth this object and create these out of a different piece. So I'm going to go to my channel box here. You see this big long list of history has been going on from when I was modeling. So I'm going to clear out this history first. Go ahead and hit delete history, or if you don't have that, you can go to delete by type history, and that will clear out the history on this object here. Then you can go to mesh. Let's see here, smooth. That's what I was looking for. Okay, so what smooth does is it subdivides each cube here. So if I had one square here, it subdivides it into 4, quadrilates it or whatever. Okay, so now this is our new geometry. Added in a bunch of cube or a bunch more polygons because it subdivided it. So now we are looking at a pontoon that is about 715 polygons or faces, according to our little counter up here. Alright, so now let's go ahead and create this base and legs that are going to connect to our airplane. Okay, so to do that, I'm actually going to use what's called a quad draw tool, and that's located inside your modeling toolkit. So before I do that though, there's a little bit of prep I have to do. I have to turn this object here into a live surface so that I can quad draw on top of it. So I'm going to click on this little magnet here. It says no live surface right now, and there's a magnet next to it. With this pontoon selected, you click the magnet, and now it says pcube1 is live. It says it right here as well. So now I just need to go to my modeling toolkit and I can go ahead and start quad drawing on top of this to make my little pedestal. Great. So I'm going to open up my modeling toolkit, which is this one right here. I mean this one right here, sorry. Okay, so now there's one in our modeling toolkit that says quad draw. I'll just click on that one. And I need to go to my 4-panel view because I can't get a good view of this guy from my perspective. So go to my 4-panel, go down, and here's what I'm after. Now I gotta disregard these legs that are coming off because those aren't going to help me. I need to focus on this shape right here. And I'll just left mouse button click around it. I'm kind of visualizing as I'm going, like how I'm going to make these squares, because right now is what I'm doing is I'm setting up, and you can move the points after the fact. You don't have to click and just keep moving on. You hover over the top and you get these little movers. Setting up for this quad draw, and you can go and lay this whole thing out ahead of time, or you can create the quads as you're going. So if I lay out my little points like I'm doing right now, I can hold down Shift in the middle of these 4 points here, which would create a quad, and then it highlights, but it won't complete until you left mouse button click inside that highlight area. So now it's being completed. But we're not done yet. Far from it. We're just getting started. So you can continue on creating quads and adding them to this completed surface. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to keep on moving around this angled pedestal here. Just going to keep going. I'll take a little bit bigger chunks as I'm going. Okay. Now, you may look at this after the fact and be like, it looks okay, but I mean, I guess if we subdivide it, it'll look okay. If you want, you can always grab individual edges, move them back and forth. You can grab the points themselves, move them back and forth, and adjust this around. And this is all being moved around, not flat like a piece of paper. This is moving around on the surface of our pontoon, which is awesome. We're building right on top of our pontoon, which is also used for what's called retopologization of high-res objects. That's not what we're doing here, but we could do the same kind of thing if this was over too many polygons. We can always recreate this guy and use less polygons by retopping it. But that's a subject for a different project. Let's say you want to hold down Control here and add in some more geometry. Just dropping an edge loop that way. You can round this out a little bit more if you want to, or you can add in another one right here. Round that out. Maybe down here needs a little bit more. It really doesn't, but I'm just showing you guys how the tool works. This one could use a little bit more. Okay. Alright, so this is good. I'm done with this. I'll go ahead and exit out. Go to object mode. Now this guy is its own object. I'll go back to my perspective view here, and you can see that this guy here is laying right on top of our pontoon. It's not on the grid. It's right on top here, which is awesome. It's matching the curvature of this exactly. So that's great. Okay, so I'm going to turn my pontoon off of a live surface. I'm going to click this little magnet. It's disabled. Now I can select my model again. I want to take a step back just for a second, just because as I create things, I want to make sure I'm naming everything I'm creating. So if I hand this off to someone else and they grab one of my objects, it doesn't say pcube1. If they look inside my outliner, it should say what the things are. So like what we have with our reference images here, we have ref front, top, pcube1, polysurface 1. I want these all to be named. So we have, and this is how I got here, was right here, this little icon with the viewport window on the side, and then what looks like a little bit of lines here. That's for our outliner. And you can go to window and find it, the outliner here as well. Okay, so I'm going to call this one mesh pontoon. We'll say this one is the left one for right now. I'll call this one mesh pontoon. I'm sorry, mesh. We'll call it pontoon connection. Left. And naming convention, mesh is what I put before anything that's made out of geometry polygons. If you're doing rigging, usually BN comes before the object. Reference, use ref. That way, when you're looking in the outliner, you know what you're looking at. You can see how it's organized. As far as after that, the name you call it, just have it be something descriptive so you know what they're looking at. Otherwise, it's the same thing as just going mesh cube. They don't know what they're looking for. If it says mesh pontoon, they know that they're looking at the pontoons of the airplane, or mesh propeller, mesh air or wings, or something like that. The more descriptive it is, the easier it is for you to be able to move around through the scene and handle the objects. Okay, so this one plate here has a bunch of history on it as well, and we're pretty much done with it, so we can delete off the history. Go ahead and delete the history on this object, just like we did with this one. Okay. Now we just need to we need some depth on this, because right now it's like a piece of paper seen on here. We need to look like this does, where it's a couple inches in depth. So I'm going to go in face mode. I'm going to select all the faces for this guy here. and I'm going to do an face extrusion going up just about a couple inches. So I'll go to Edit Mesh, go down to Face, Extrude. And this part you want to be very careful. If you hit extrude and you see, oh, well, it didn't really do anything right now, and you go to extrude again, you'll end up with hidden geometry on the inside here, and that's not what we want. So you see this little gizmo pop up, go ahead and translate up in the Y a little bit, just a couple inches, maybe even less. I'm going to activate scale by clicking on this little cube up here, and then I'm going to grab the teal one, just translate it together just a little bit. And I'm going to extrude again. To extrude again, I can go and find my extrude tool, or I can hit G, and it'll repeat the last command. So I hit G, extrude it again. I'll scale it together just a little bit more, translate it up. Now it has a little bit of bevel on it, so it looks nice. Okay, good. Now is all I need to finish these pontoon feet is to create those little legs that come off of it. And there's a bunch of ways you can do that, and I am going to opt for using an extrusion with a control curve. So I'm going to create myself a custom CV curve to control or to create the feet. Before I do that though, I did just look at my timer. I'm over a half an hour again on the modeling of this pontoon. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to stop this one. I'm going to hit save. I'll just go save scene as, and let's go call it plane 2. Pontoon plane 2. Go ahead and hit save as. Good. And continue. Alright, so this is where we'll stop the video for today. We'll pick up in the next lesson. We'll finish off the feet, and then we'll go and start modeling the airplane itself. So thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next lesson.